Welcome to Pass It On, Connecting Soul to Soul, a podcast introducing you to courageous souls. These people are taking their spark in life and passing it on, lighting their corner of the world. I'm your host, Tammy Sturr, best-selling author, speaker, and CEO of Author My Day, a company inspiring courage. I interview people about how they exercise their courage muscle and use their story to inspire you to live with a courageous heart. Let's get started with today's guest. My guest today is Veni Folta. Veni brings over 30 years of global senior management experience to her mission of empowering high-performing women to build careers they love. She combines over a decade of research and personal practice in neuroscience, cognitive science, positive psychology, and mindfulness meditation to deliver transformative results. Veni specializes in cutting-edge science-based strategies that help women leaders rewire their brains, unlocking their full potential for career advancement and personal fulfillment. Veni holds an executive MBA and a graduate certificate in e-business. She is certified as a Jack Canfield Advanced Success Principles trainer and a Happy for No Reason trainer. Veni, welcome to Pass It On, Connecting Soul to Soul.
Thank you, Tammy. I am so honored and privileged that you invited me to be on your podcast. I've always known you as the courage coach, and your courage allows me to let myself shine, my courage shine, because you're lifting all of us. So thank you for inviting me.
And Veni, you do shine, which leads us right into our first question. When I was reading about your mission to inspire 1 million people globally, I'll let you talk about how you're going to do that here in a minute. But with that, as you inspire 1 million people globally, what spark do you want to be in the world?
Well, I guess what we've always talked about this, what you talk about, servant leadership. And this is really dear to my heart because I have always been in management, in senior management. And sometimes when you get to high places, you forgot why you're there, how you got there. So for me, I've always kept this in mind that I always wanted to inspire my team to be what they can be, what is inside of them. I use the Japanese term called ikigai. It's really the intersection of four pillars of our lives: what you're good at, what you love to do, what you can be paid for, and how you can do that to serve the world. And that has really stuck with me over the years. So this is why I am here today with you.
So, Veni, usually my next question would be tell us about a project you're working on now, either personally or professionally, but we're at a crossroads because you are actually launching a book the week that we talk. But let me be the first to congratulate you on being the #1 hot new release.
Thank you.
Out there. I believe on Amazon, if I remember right. You're the hot release #1 on Amazon this day that we're talking. So tell us about your book and this project you've been working on.
Yeah, so the book is born, many people asked me, the book is actually born out of two things. One is my personal experience of overcoming all kinds of challenges. I am, or was, or have been a corporate role warrior, except I do it internationally. So I travel to 50 countries, negotiating deals and contracts and meeting my beloved world global colleagues. But at the same time, I was raising young children. And so imagine the intersection of that was very, very challenging. And because I did not have any Vini in my life to guide me when I was younger, I struggled. I ended up having cancer. I collapsed in in a hotel room out of this country. Um, but what I gleaned from that was I realized what I've learned actually can be a survival guide for people. And the second part I said about statistics, because I'm a science-driven person, so every time in my presentations, I always update my statistics, specifically statistics on mental health.
Mm.
So the beginning of this year, or yeah, I was looking up, updating my stats for my presentations. I came to find out in our country, this is based on the latest data released by the Center for Disease Control. We've talked about 11 minutes. I'm looking at my clock, 11:11 in Pacific time.
Mm-hmm.
One person in our country has taken his or her own life. When I saw that stats on the CDC website, I did not want to believe it. I pull out my handy calculator on my phone and I did the math 5 times until the facts sunk in. And it was true. And then I went into the WHO website, similar statistics. I know better because I've traveled all over the world and worked with colleagues all over. So basically, what the stats told me is it does not matter where you call home. We all face the same human conditions, the
Right.
same human challenges. And that was what one of the inspirations for me when I left my telecom career for 30 years last year was that I wanted to give back. And then I got invited back to, um, instead of talking about 4G, 5G, which is my specialty on international roaming, I was invited back to talk about how happiness is the surprising gateway for our personal and professional transformation. And then it came up to me to say, I want to inspire 1 million people globally. And right after it came out of my mouth, I go, wait a minute, 1 million people, how can I do that? So I thought, okay, just be conservative. And let's say 100 people have directly, they either saw me remotely or in person and got one message from my talk, from my keynote speech. Then they go back to the office, they practice it, and they tell two people. Tammy, do you know how many times that needs to happen? One person tells two people, only one idea. It only
Oh,
takes
I
30,
bet it's somewhere around a handful of times for that multiplier effect.
the multiplier is 13.34.
Wow. So if you just go
So
out 13 times and talk about your book, I Quit How to Lose Your Job and Find Your Dream Career, and those people go back and affect two more people, like you're going to get to your goal with
yes,
13, under 20
yeah,
times.
under 20 times for them to repeat. So if the exponential math goes, I tell 100 people, 100 people tells, each one of them tell two people. And then each one of those two people they tell, go and tell two people. It only needs to happen 13 times. Mind blowing, right? Math is math.
Yeah.
And a European colleague's profile says, when I was trying to decide what my next step is, I realized I wanted to stop answering calls as the phone person. I decided to answer my calling. And what um, also became my beacon was his profile quote that says,
Wow.
we
Wow.
have two lives. The second begins when you realize there is only one worthy of your dreams. So all of these, my experiences as well as the statistics, calls me to come forward and show people that are struggling in their career, because life happens personally, but is intertwined with your professional life. And when it gets to a point that it feels like you're boiling, you're sinking, and there's no hope or no help, I want to be there for you. The book is written with 18 other people to do just that. 19 of us wrote a chapter, and I compiled them together into this book. And they come from different industries. And that is why I do this work, because I have already have colleagues from at least half a dozen countries in the last 2 days that told me that they either ordered or will order the book, which pushed it to #1 Amazon hot new releases. That is just mind blowing, because the book is not even going to really release officially until tomorrow, which is January 15th. And so for me, the book on my chapter, I talked about, so I told you that I'm in telecommunications, and for your audiences that don't know, like you might see an old TV commercial about 4G, 5G, all these Gs. But in telecommunications, 4G, we call it LTE, long-term evolution. So when I looked back, when I wrote my chapter just 3 months ago, when I looked back at my career, I realized my whole career trajectory really mimics or parallels the trajectory of wireless evolution. So I started when there's not barely 1G, when we were still wireline mostly. And then I started 2G, 3G, and then up until last year, I became the spokesperson for long-term evolution 4G roaming, international roaming. And I looked back, and each time one of these generations comes around or came around, I was going through something about my life changes. And it was most remarkable when I really look at and matching the dates. I couldn't believe it. Like, you could not have make up a story this closely parallel my work and my life, my personal life. And that's also another inspiration for me, because who knows? Other people may be going through the same things. And what I want to show them is that, okay, you had cancer. Okay, you have no time with your family. Okay, you crash, you're exhausted, and you come home and you feel like the burden, financial burden on your shoulders. I want you to know that if you can switch your thinking a little bit, first of all, take a deep breath. You take a deep breath, you engage your parasympathetic system, which brings your heart and your brain into coherence, which helps you clear your mind to think. So you're not in the drama mode, right? Because drama comes to us, but it's outside. So what I want to encourage you to go inside is to go inside and be calm and reflect on your life. And when I did that, when I wrote my chapter, I realized how many people and people in the telecommunications industry, I call them my peeps all over the world, as well as whatever really, we have doctor, we have lawyer, we have professionals, entrepreneurs from different fields in as the authors in the book, and they all talk about similar struggles. And so what I want you to know, not just from my story, even health crisis, even like things that you feel like is insurmountable, take a deep breath close your eyes and ask yourself, what is this happening around me telling me to do? I want you to be able to go to the next level and ask, what is this happening for me instead of to me? Because why? Your awareness of just that will give you back your superpower. My formula, I have a formula for superpower, technical techies. Your superpower is your awareness, plus taking responsibility, your ability to respond to a situation, plus taking inspired action, not just actions that you get from your MBA school, actions that you feel true to your heart. It tugs at your heartstring, inspired action. So awareness plus taking responsibility plus taking inspired action is your superpower.
Uh,
Take back your superpower.
that is amazing. This was a huge act of exercising your courage muscle to pull this book together. What was your vision in asking other people to come in and be a co-author with you?
We also have this phenomenon called the Great Resignation, or there's another level of that is quiet quitting. People are not happy with their jobs. They didn't know what to do. And so I thought a career-oriented book that talks about mental health, bring it to the service. Because if you tell people you have cancer, people say, oh, I'm so sorry. If you tell people you have depression, people don't know what to say to you, right?
Right.
I want to break that stigma. I want to help people break that stigma of job loss. People get laid off, people get reduction, the RIF. People get all kinds of ways that either they lost their job, they voluntarily changed their job, they want to pivot, or they're sitting in a job that they want to get out of because they don't feel aligned with their life purpose, but because of the paycheck, they're stuck. So all of the stories in the book address one of these aspects or multiple of these aspects. So imagine having what I called an ultimate survival guide for really personal and professional transformation.
Before we go on to the other questions, I just want to remind everybody that the title of the book is I Quit. And it's I Quit, How to Lose Your Job and Find Your Dream Career. And just as Veni said, it's the ultimate survival guide to turning job loss, whether that's voluntary or an event happened to you, turning that job loss into an opportunity for growth and reinvention. So thank you for leading that effort for us, Veni.
Yeah.
It's a very, very common thing. And as a person who left their position, that's one of the main questions I get is people asking, how do I? How did you? How do I? So thank you.
Yeah, well, actually, many people came to me and said, well, if you want companies to hear this message and you call the book I Quit, they're not going to listen to you because they don't want their people to quit.
Right.
But the next level of really is really what we need to pay attention is to how to lose your job and find your dream career. What I meant by that is you don't need to actually walk away from your current role. You just need to reimagine it so that it's aligned with your purpose, your values, your skill levels, doing what you love. And you can be in your job, in your company still, so it's for people that, yes, obviously for people that have lost their job voluntarily or involuntarily, but also for people that want to stay in the role. I give you an example. I just had a call with basically a reunion of one of my courses. I have some of the members came back 1 year later as a reunion on my Dream Life Blueprint program. And one of them is also in telecommunications. And she's in Japan. And she told me last year, she said, Vinny, I love my company. I love my fields. I love telecommunications. But I want to reinvent my role. And now in my company, data analysts are in demand. I want to use my skills to fill this role. So
right?
I want to use her story to inspire you to not think that, oh, this book is not for me because I'm not quitting my job. I love my job. Is what I want to invite you is to use this story that I just shared with you, that to reinvent, to reimagine what success is. So you can change your vanilla flavor job into a career that you can build on, like I did, 30 years in telecommunications. But more than that, I have evolved and turned my career into a calling, answering my calling. And that is my wish for you, to not just do your regular job, but imagine it, reimagine it so that it's aligned with your ikigai, aligned with what you love, what you're skilled at, what gets you paid, and what you can serve the world. This is what my wish is for the book and for every reader or for anyone watching this podcast, whether you read the book or not. I want you to get this message that whatever you need is already inside of you. You just need to reach in and shine.
How do you define courage?
Oh, that is a big question because guess what? Some of those dark nights of the soul, I ask myself, do I still have the courage to go on? And so there are different, definition. And one is, having, oh, some people think, oh, courage is you don't have any fear. But actually, courage is, in fact, the opposite. Brene Brown says, courage is actually fear. You have to be able to step into fear and rise above. That's courage.
I love
So,
it. Benny, why does courage matter?
oh, courage is almost the only really deciding factor whether you can find your own ikigai. Because a lot of us are stuck. We feel like, oh, we are doing something for the paycheck because we're not doing something we really truly love or aligning with our values. That takes courage because that when you're in that space, you're staying in your comfort zone, right? Courage, another definition, is to be bold enough to cross the line, step out of your comfort zone and say, I know there is more for me. And I am going to feel the fear, wobbly, shaky hands, shaky legs, and knees buckling, cross that line. Take the courage so that you can reflect what truly lights you up. That takes a lot of courage because we can just hide in our comfort zone and live a less than life. And I'm asking you not to settle. Don't settle.
One of the many reasons I find you a courageous individual is because you, amongst all of what you're building after leaving a career, went through this concussion. And although you had to take time to heal, you came back. And like you said, you're publishing the book, you're launching it, you have your programs that you do. So, my question that I have for you is, who comes to mind when you think of a courageous individual, or who's your courage role model?
I have so many. Christ was one of the courageous people that everybody knows, but in case that doesn't resonate, There's also one of the people that I can think of is Viktor Frankl.
Uh-huh. Mhm.
He was a Holocaust survivor. And when I was young, going through school, I heard about the word Holocaust. I didn't really know what it meant, really, until a few years ago. I was in Berlin and I took a tour to a concentration camp. And then when I started reading the history, seeing with my own eyes, that's when I realized why people said Viktor Frankl is the embodiment of courage, because he talked about his experience that even with people that have nothing to eat, their last loaf of bread, they will share with those who didn't have any. So inspiring. Thank you for asking that question, because it really pulls at my heartstrings again and again.
Yeah.
Why I do this work.
And the people that we find courageous when we take that time, like you did, to visit and walk in some of those footsteps, it becomes so much more real to us. I think so inspiring.
Yeah.
And so, speaking of inspiring, what's next for Veni?
Oh, well, I took 3.5 months to get over my concussion last year. And then I took the last 3.5 months to write the book and birth it. So next month, I'm going to celebrate my birthday, and I am going to spend about the majority of next month in Chile and Argentina, which will add to my 51st and 52nd country to visit. And I will be celebrating myself, my team, everyone, my family, in Patagonia, which is another mountain to climb, because this project, I told my team, or you might have read in the preface, this book project is our Mount Everest. And Jack Canfield, as you know, he said, no one climbs Mount Everest without support. And we all supported each other to climb this Mount Everest. So I'm going to Patagonia to look for other mountains to climb. So you
Wonderful.
might hear from me, from all these amazing places. So that's my rest time next month.
Veni, how can the podcast listeners best connect with you after this episode?
Yeah, so I think the best way is they can look me up on LinkedIn. You can show it maybe in your show notes,
Sure.
LinkedIn link, or they can check out my website, which is globaltransformation.life. I picked that domain, .life, because that's my wish for everyone in the world, is to have transformation globally. Globaltransformation.life. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. I found it interesting and I was like, is this website right? And here you are, a .com person who has helped usher in 4G and 5G and all the technology of our lives. And what it really comes back to you for you is .life, even though .com has helped you get to where you're at. And I just want to thank you for reminding us what is most important right now is life.
From .com to .life. I love it.
Thank you, Veni. You've been a wonderful guest on Pass It On, connecting soul to soul.
Thank you so much. And thank you for your courage. And thank you for the work that you do for this world, to inspire all of us to have courage, and not only to have courage, to pass it on from soul to soul.
Thank you for
Thank you.
listening and being inspired to exercise your own courage muscle. Please leave us a rating on whatever platform you are listening. For even more, you can go to www.authormyday.com. Remember, you only have this one life, this one day, so always author your day. Thanks for listening to Pass It On, connecting soul to soul.